right. Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. Today we have Bronson Hill with us from Bronson Equity and the Mailbox Money Show. Bronson is down there in sunny California with a multifamily focus. I am super excited to have you here, Bronson. Thank you very much for hopping on.
Hey, Gabe, really excited to be here. I love the Seattle to LA connection we made, that you're in Seattle and I'm from Seattle. And, I just love the Northwest and love talking about real estate. So it's going to be a great conversation, I'm sure.
Yeah, man, you actually don't see the reverse migration there. People going from, there was a huge influx of Californians into Seattle, and there's not as many, Seattleites going down to California. So love to
Yeah.
have our representation down there.
Yeah, exactly. No, I moved. It's been almost 20 years now. Came down in college and then just ended up staying. But yeah, and then of course, according to most of the US, California is responsible for about 80% of the world's problems, which I don't disagree. There's a lot of political and other issues that come from California, just stuff. So I
Yeah.
totally get it.
Well, you guys got the sun down there, so you're forgiven.
We do. Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, I told you before we got on the show, we like to start with stories. We like to hear kind of how people got to where they are today. I'm sure you got a good one. So why don't you take us back to the beginning and how'd you get started in real estate?
Yeah. So it all began with a young boy and a dream. Oh, I'm kidding. It didn't actually begin that way. No, I like to start in a funny way. I was a well-paid medical sales professional. So I
All right.
worked in surgical sales. I would wear scrubs. I'd go into surgery, and I was getting paid, $200,000 a year or more, working 20, 30 hours a week. And I enjoyed what I did. And my friends and family were like, "You're crazy. Why would you ever want to leave this?" And I was like, I just want to create my own thing. I want to do something where I have control over my time. Because even at 30 hours a week, I wasn't able to travel what I wanted, go where I wanted to go. I had to be in the hospital or in the operating room. And, again, it was very interesting, but I really wanted to try to find a way to get my time back. And so Warren Buffett has this quote, and he says, unless you learn how to make money when you sleep, you'll work until you die. And so it's really the idea of, I was still trading time for money, right? A lot of us, even if you get paid a lot, even the doctors I was working with, some of these guys were making over $1 million a year, and they were yet having to work 60, 80 hours a week. And I was seeing, man, that just doesn't seem like freedom to me. Freedom to me seems like you have freedom over your time. And so I started to look into ways to invest, found single family, like a lot of people. And I, just thought I'm going to do this. I had 4 or 5 houses, wanted to get to 30 houses. And then I realized it was a lot of work. And I had a cousin who I had kind of a chance meeting with, and he was a multifamily guy. And he's like, "It sounds like a lot of work. Why don't you do multifamily?" And I said, "I don't have the money." And he said, "Well, you can raise the money." And so he taught me about something called syndication, which is just simply a legal structure of how you put together deals for people. And you can either do it as a passive investor, where you invest passively in deals. That's what we work with investors on. Or you can do what I do and raise money. And fast forward now, we have over 2,000 apartment units, mostly in Jacksonville, Florida, and Atlanta, Georgia. And we've raised about $30 million from retail investors. I was able to quit my great corporate job a little over a year ago. I haven't had any regrets. I've traveled 6 times internationally this year, and I
Wow.
just love being able to have freedom over my time to create what I want to create and really work with great individuals.
Nice, man. I love it. You're really, you're really leaning into the travel thing 6 times in a year. That's that's impressive.
Yeah, yeah. A couple times I spoke at a mastermind in Cancun. I went for one of my causes I really believe in, and I want to, part of the reason I'm trying to generate wealth is to try to end modern day human slavery in the world. So there's actually 20 to 40 million human slaves in the world today, which
Oh,
people don't realize. And so I
I
went
did
on a
not
trip to
know that.
Guatemala, and yeah, it's actually more than there's ever been in the history of the world. So it's the second most powerful criminal organization in the world, $150 billion a year industry. So
Wow,
that's
I
a
did not know
big.
that. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy, and it's in every city, even in the U.S. There's a lot of human trafficking and different, I could get into that, but yeah, and then just other times for vacation. I'm going to Patagonia in about a month for a hiking trip for a week. So it's in Chile. So I'm really excited for that. So I'm just creating, fun things to do.
Very cool, man. I love it. Yeah, I've wanted to go down to Patagonia and hike. What's that big mountain up there? That's in Argentina, not in Chile. But
Okay,
love
right.
love the goals you got there, and I like kind of the trajectory of your story because you started in corporate. So many people out there, myself included, we were in corporate. We were making good money, but it wasn't enough. We wanted something more. We wanted more control. And you were that same route. you 200,000, 20 to 30 hours a week. That's so much better than my corporate job. That's great. But you wanted more and you started in single family. You moved on to multifamily with that mentor. I love hearing people who come with a story that has a mentor, because mentors are so crucial for the trajectory of your career. So shout out to your cousin there. What was let's just go back to that period in your career. You had the few houses, you were doing that, the little bit of investing, and then you met your cousin. How did you transition from single family to multifamily? What was like the first couple of steps you took?
Yeah, so when I first learned about it, I was like, this sounds really interesting. And of course, having this cousin, I was like, okay, I've got a mentor here. And so he basically gave me some tips. I said, well, how can I get started? And he said, well, listen to this podcast, read this book, go to this event. So I just basically did everything he said. And so every book I was reading, I read a number of books on real estate, on apartments or syndication or commercial real estate. And a couple of them had said, hey, you need to start a meetup, because if you have a meetup, it allows you to connect with other local individuals and really help them kind of on the path. And so I actually had been going to a real estate meetup in Pasadena, California, where I live for years. And so I approached the leader and I said, hey, you have a meeting on real estate. What if we did one just on multifamily, and I'll do all the work and you just show up? And she's like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. So we did it and we promoted the heck out of it. And we had 60 people at the first meeting. And so this was already an
Nice.
established meeting. I mean, her meetings would typically have 40 or 50 people. So we had a pretty good turnout for the first meeting. And I met a guy at that first meeting who's like, hey, I'd invest in one of your deals. And my ears perked up and I was like, oh, I don't even have a deal. And you're like, but
Well,
it's
hold
funny.
on, I'll
I
go
know,
get one.
but it's funny when you start a meetup, you're not an expert in the space necessarily, but you're a leader in the space and people see
Yep.
that. And so he was drawn to that. And so I said, oh, let's get some coffee. So I showed him a sample deal of like, this is what a deal would look like if I had a deal. And then he said, yeah, I'd be interested. I'd invest 100K in something like that. So I said, oh, great. So then I introduced him to somebody else who's from that same meetup that I met, who had a deal, was looking for money. So I just became the connector of those two, right? Because
I
if you
love
want to
it.
do big deals, if you're doing single family, you can sometimes do it yourself, whatever. But bigger deals, when you need to raise money, it's either you have the deal or you have the money. And so you bring those two together, whether you have the deal and you're trying to find money, or you have money, you're trying to find the deal. It's just bringing those things together. So that's kind of how I got started. And then went to some events, started networking, and about 6 months later, I formed a partnership where a guy who was a big influencer approached him, said, hey, what if we work together? I help raise money for you. And I started taking calls while doing my regular job. I took about 15 to 20 calls a week, just with investors. Over the next 18 months from that point, I had 1,000 one-on-one phone calls with investors,
A
and together
thousand. Wow, good job.
1,000 calls. And me and this guy that I partnered with, we raised $15 million together. So that was my
Nice,
kind of
man.
going from 100K starting a meetup to 15 million, and that got me to basically really got me going. And obviously the first 30 or 50 calls, like, what do I even say? How do I even talk to people about this? But then you kind of get the talk track going, and it's been a lot of fun. So yeah.
Nice, man. There's a couple things I want to pull out from everything you just said, because I think it's really important for people who are just getting started. For one, a lot of people when they get started, they're on in the single family track and they do everything themselves. When you get in the commercial, things specialize. So there's so many different roles that you can try to fill. You raised capital. There's people that go out source deals, people that get good at underwriting, people who get really good at operating. And so there's different roles that need to be filled. You don't need to do everything yourself. I like that you figured out your own niche. You moved forward with it. You found somebody who had a network that could kind of help you move deals along. And then you did 1,000 calls. When I got started, I would do a couple calls and call it good. And I'm like, oh, it's just so hard. I didn't realize the volume that you need to do in
Yeah.
order to really see traction. Um,
Mm.
1,000 calls it's no small feat. And so congratulations on that.
Thanks. Yeah,
What was
mhm. Yeah, I was gonna
what
say that
was
there were days, real quick. I just want to share this. There were days that I would take a day off from work from my other job, and I would do from 7 in the morning till 5 p.m. and just do like 20 calls in a day or something on a Tuesday. Maybe I was on vacation, so I like had all these calls lined up, so I just had to do it. And it's a lot of the same kind of conversation. So now I do usually a few a day here or there, and I try to work them in. But now it's been about 1,300. But yeah, you learn. Yeah, I still learn. I still learn on the way on how to communicate with folks and kind of how to qualify them.
and I'm sure you found like the first couple of calls you make, you're just stumbling around. You're just like you're trying to figure out your script. You're trying to figure out what to say. But it gets easier over time as you really refine refine your script, your speech, everything about that.
Yeah, yeah. I think in the beginning, it's like anything, we don't know what we don't know, and so I think a few things I've learned in that, if people are interested in like how do I talk to potential investors or my friends and family, you start having conversations. I mean, hey, can I tell you about what I'm working on? And you just have a conversation, and then, but when it's somebody on the phone who found you through a podcast or YouTube or something, um, one thing I do is I'll just start asking questions, how do we get connected? And then I'll try to figure out who am I talking to? Am I talking to the person who's done 20 syndicated deals and they've been an investor and we're going to talk about cap reversion rates at exit or something really complex? Or is it somebody who's like high net worth, like a physician who's never invested in anything but stocks and bonds, right? So it's being able to figure out who's on the phone. That's gonna be a much more basic conversation about syndication. And there's kind of different goals for each person you're talking to. So as long as you just keep learning, you'll learn along the way, and it's a lot of fun, and it's challenging and it's interesting and all the above.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely it's a journey. You learn every step along the way. So let's shift real quick here. I know you wrote a book called How to Use Inflation to Your Advantage. Right now we are in kind of, it's not really unprecedented times. There's been inflation in the past, but unprecedented for the past decade. How about that? And so we're in a very inflationary period. So what, for all the investors out there who are kind of worried about investing in this time, interest rates are super high, inflation's really high. What advice can you give them for entering into this market?
Yeah, so a lot of people are seeing the pain of inflation at the pump. Actually, in California, where I live, gas is $6.60 a gallon.
Jeez.
It's more than twice the national average, so it's very high. And there's other food prices, other things are coming up. And so I wrote this book called "How to Use Inflation to Your Advantage." You can get it on my website for free, bronsonequity.com. But it talks about basically how do you use wise debt. If you're able to take out long-term debt that's below the rate of inflation. So if inflation is 8%, or some people would say it's 15 or 18%, depending on what figure you look at. If you're getting debt at 5 or 6% and you're buying a long-term asset, you're basically borrowing it at a rate below inflation, and you're paying back with future dollars that are worth less. Also, these assets are going to be worth more because they've printed and created so much money, and inflation is high. So I'm not saying a single family is an interesting investment because of the debt. The debt actually becomes the actual asset, but it's obviously the interest rates are up 7%, or they're getting higher. But there are examples of this. There are groups that are still, if you look around, there's some that are still lending super low. There's something called a personal line of credit. I got maybe a year ago, and they're still actually advertising this in California and in Florida. But there is a bank that loaned me 100K, basically at a fixed rate of 2.75% for 10 years. And it's
Wow,
interest
that's
only.
almost free money.
Yeah, interest only for the first 2 years. So I know I can get, 15% or higher in other investments. So it's an arbitrage, right? You're borrowing at a cheap rate. You put it into assets that you get a higher amount with. There's obviously risk there. I'm not telling anybody, you have to look at your own situation, your own sophistication. But that's one way. Another thing I love about real estate, I know what you love about real estate as well, Gabe, is that you buy a house. Let's say, just for an example, this is hard to find this particular house, but let's just say it's $100,000. You put 20% down, $20,000, and the house appreciates to 120,000. So it's gone up 20%. Well, you haven't just increased your money by 20%; you've doubled your money, right? Because of the leverage that's involved in buying the assets. That's why real estate is so attractive, even in this type of environment. So we love multifamily. I talk about multifamily there. I talk about some alternative things such as gold and silver, other real assets, because a lot of things that are actual physical real assets will continue to have value, and they will hedge inflation typically over the long term. So those are a couple strategies that you'll find out in the book there.
Perfect, man. I love it. All right, I just took a peek at the clock. We have gone through our 15 minutes, so it is time to jump into the quick question round. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Yeah.
Let's do it. It starts with books. I'm a big bookie, so give me two recommendations, one for general life wisdom and one for real estate specific.
So general life wisdom, my favorite book is Brené Brown's book called The Gifts of Imperfection.
Mm.
I've read, I read about 60 to 80 books a year. This book it's not a big thing, it's maybe 150 pages, but it just talks about how do you enter into wholehearted living? How do you overcome shame? How do you create, people in your life, relationships that really people can be authentic, vulnerable, and supportive. So it's an awesome book. Love that book. The second book, if people have not read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That is a excellent book. It's kind of, 101 for anybody who's interested in learning about real estate. The second one I actually liked even more, which is called Cash Flow Quadrant. So if people have
Hmm.
not read Cash Flow Quadrant, there's so many principles from that book that I use in my business today. And it just, again, teaches people how to actually become passive investors where they can make money when they sleep.
Nice. I love it. Yeah, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. That was actually how I got into real estate, but I haven't read Cash Flow Quadrant. I've heard it's good.
Yeah, next on your list, then I would say that's a good one.
There you go. Going to Amazon. All right, moving on to the next question. This is for your younger self. So if you could go back to the Bronson who, let's say he was just getting started as a medical sales rep, go back to him, look him in the eye, give him one piece of advice moving forward.
I would say get started in real estate sooner, take action. I remember going to meetups for probably 6 or 7 years and not doing anything. I mean, literally just I had my one rental, but like single family rent, but I just didn't really do anything. And it wasn't until I started taking action that my life started to change. So Tony Robbins has this quote. He's like, it's in your moments of decision that your destiny is shaped. So when I said, hey, in 3 years, I'm going to be out of my job, like I'm going to replace my living expenses. And I did it. And it took less than 3 years. So like it's possible, but it starts with making a decision and actually going for it.
Nice. And I feel like in real estate specifically, it's very easy to get stuck in that analysis paralysis because real estate is very analysis heavy and it kind of attracts the people who like to analyze things.
Yeah.
So I feel a lot of us do get caught in that analysis paralysis. We wait however many years. I think I did my first flip 2014, and it wasn't until 2020 that I really like broke out and did my own thing. So
Wow.
that's to everybody who's listening. If you're just getting started, don't make our mistake. Just pull the trigger, get it done right now. You will not regret it when you're in your future self. All right, next question. This is the United States. It's a big place, a lot of opportunity out there, a lot of square miles to buy. So, what is one metro you are most excited about investing in today?
I'm most excited about Jacksonville, Florida. We've got so much going on there. We've got 1,500 units there. We're working on a couple more things there now, and the reason I love it is 20,000 new people are moving there every month.
Wow,
And so there's
it's like a
incredible
small city.
population growth. It's actually 1.5 million in the metro area, and if people want to live in Florida, the average price of a house is 311,000. It's about 4 times cheaper than where I live in Pasadena, but you have a better quality of life. And then the other thing I love is that we're buying stuff that's value add properties, and we're paying $1,000, or excuse me, we're paying 160,000 per unit, but it's $1,000 a month for rent typically when we take over. But doing a $6,000 renovation brings the rent to about $1,560. So it's about a 56% upside in the rent if we do that value add. So no matter what happens with interest rates, with valuations, with any of this stuff, interest rate caps, which is an expense that go into just if you have bridge debt on it, it's going to be great as long as we can do those renovations. So we're just so excited about the upside, the growth, the phenomenal, just amazing area that it is.
Nice, man. There's a number of other people who've been on the show who really like Jacksonville.
Yeah,
It sounds like a really really solid metro out there.
yeah.
That moves us to the next question. This is your Superman strength. We are all gifted with strengths that we uniquely give to this world. So, what is one thing that you are specifically good at? What's your Superman strength?
I'm really good at connecting with people. I think, having 1,300 calls with investors, like I love being able to have conversations and connect and really trying to figure out what they need and helping them. And so I think really good sales is not salesy. It's not like a used car salesman. It's basically asking really good questions and trying to help people, even if it's not putting them into one of your deals, right? It's putting into something with a competitor that would really help them. So I think when you're just helpful to people, it shows up. So I think that's something that I'm good at.
Nice. Love it. All right. Next question is mentors. You've already kind of touched on this earlier, but none of us are islands. We all stand on the shoulders of giants. So, who is one person in your life who has contributed the most to your career, your real estate career, till today?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I shared that story about starting a meetup. Well, Christina Suter is her name. She's co-leads the Pasadena the meetup in Pasadena with me. I did kind of a small mentorship with her when I first started, but it really was kind of what got me to take action. And you mentioned this kind of in what you were sharing, that there are people we just think about and we get stuck in our heads, but somebody who just is not perfect at it and just takes action and they just keep learning. There's a saying that anything worth doing is worth doing poorly at first.
Yeah.
And so if you just take action, you will figure it out. You're going to make a lot of mistakes, but you'll learn. And that's the process. It's amazing. So Christina's been awesome just to help me to do that. And obviously a resource over the years to just be able to have support and things I'm doing.
Nice. Well, shout out to Christina. That's a good quote. I think one of the like World War II generals or something like that said, what did he say? It was like imperfect action today is better than perfect action tomorrow or something like that.
Yeah, I agree.
Good quote. Good wisdom there. And this is second to last question. This is for tools. Tools form the backbone of every business. So what's one tool that you could not live without?
I couldn't live without Active Campaign. Active Campaign is
yeah.
a CRM or contact management software. And so we have our list of 5,500 people, but it's how I communicate with my investors, how I do my weekly emails, how I announce stuff. And it's got a lot of back end stuff that just makes life way easier.
All right. Active Campaign. That's a good one. That moves us to the very last question. This is for the listeners. You've given us a lot of good advice. I'm sure people want to reach out. What is the best way for them to do that?
So I'm on social media. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, mostly. If you want to go to my website, like I mentioned, I've got that ebook, How to Use Inflation to Your Advantage at bronsonequity.com. And I love connecting with folks, whether it's passive investors interested in growing their wealth without taking up more of their time, or it's people that are interested in growing to starting to raise money or starting to do deals. And so I love talking to both. So.
Perfect. All right, I'll put that URL in the show notes. So if y'all want to reach out, just go ahead and click the little more in the description. It'll pull down the full description. In there, you can find Bronson's URLs. All right, Bronson, that wraps it up. Thank you very much for hopping on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. This has been a lot of fun. Really appreciate it. And it's always great to connect with other great real estate people, especially folks that are in Seattle. So great to connect.
Go Huskies.
Yeah.
And for everybody else who's with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason we do this. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, reach out to me, Gabe at therealestateinvestingclub.com. Other than that, I hope you guys have an absolutely fantastic week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode as much as I enjoyed putting it on, and we're able to pull some actionable advice that you can apply in your own investing today in the field. Before you go, we have a gift for you. If you're a new investor looking to get started or an established investor looking to take your investing to the next level, I've created an ebook just for you, available on our website. This ebook will cover how I was able to create both active and passive income in real estate with very little money to start with. In it, I will address the 3 most often cited obstacles new and veteran investors run into by showing you how to find deals that are actually deals, how to finance a deal with little to no money down, and how to exit those deals for maximum value. And if you get the ebook today, I am throwing in a bundle of bonuses, 7 of them to be exact. The first one will be the off-market lead generation blueprint, which will take you through the exact systems and processes we use to generate off-market leads like clockwork, which is the most important skill when it comes to creating wealth in real estate. The second bonus is the A to Z REI systems and vendors guide, which will allow you to peek under the hood of our business and see the exact tools, systems, and even the vendors we use to see the success that we do. And the third bonus is the top 100 best performing keywords pack, which will give you the exact keywords we use to target motivated sellers online using PPC ads. The fourth bonus is our contracts bundle for wholesaling and renting real estate, which will give you access to all the contracts we use in the field to execute all different types of transactions. After that is the Investors Quick Analysis Calculator and Offer Tool, which will allow you to quickly calculate whether a deal is an actual deal and will allow you to create an offer automatically from those calculations. This is a lot of bonuses that I said. I'm just going to keep going down the list. Number 6 is the Investors Daily Success Tracker, which is a tracker you can use to ensure you are taking the right actions day in and day out to reach your financial goals in real estate. And the last bonus is the Wholesalers Template for Quick Assignment Cash, which will give you the templates we use to present our wholesale deals professionally and efficiently to our buyers. Whew, that is a bundle. So
It's a mouthful. You get all of those bonuses for free when you download the ebook. All we charge is the admin cost to run the show. So if you're interested in the ebook and the bonus bundle, head on over to the website at therealestateinvestingclub.com. Click on Get the ebook bundle at the top of the page to take advantage of that deal. And with that said, I hope you have a fantastic day and even better week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.